Bonjour et bienvenue à l'Alliance française de Chicago and its 2022 edition of le Festival de la Francophonie, the French World Fest. La francophonie représente 300 million French speakers in 35 countries and across 5 continents. It's also 135 million of students of French worldwide. This year, our festival returns both online and on-site to celebrate Francophone food, films, and music from around the world with you. Admission is free to all programs except our closing night. Most programs are in English and French. My name is Raphaël Penel, and I'm the Director of Finance and Administration at the Alliance Française, and I'm usually working behind the scenes. But today, we are going to visit La Belgique, and this is where I come from. With us today for Team Belgique, Belgium, we have Stephano Smars, Trade Commissioner for Wallonia Export Investment Agency, Paul van Halteren, Honorary Consul of Belgium in Chicago, and Cheffe Muriel Libert. À vous, Stephano.
Merci, Raphaël, and good evening to all of you. I'm very happy to be here again on this occasion of the Festival de la Francophonie. So my name is Stephano Smars. I'm the Trade Commissioner for Wallonia, region of Belgium here in Chicago, and I'm in charge of the trade and business, not only in Chicago, but as well in most of the Midwest. So I'm extremely fortunate to work with a colleague who happens tonight to be as well our famous Cheffe Muriel. And I will let Muriel immediately say a few words about the recipe she's going to present to us, and which is related to the chicon, a famous legume, vegetable from our country. So Cheffe Muriel, please tell us a few words about the chicon and the recipe we're going to see now. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephano. Yes, well, last year I showed you how to make the Belgian waffles, les galettes. And this year we chose another typical Belgian dish, which is the Belgian endives, les chicons, and they are cooked au gratin. That means in the oven and under the broiler. And so I suggest that we go to the preparation of the chicons right away.
Bonjour, hello, I'm Muriel, and today I'm going to show you how to prepare a specialty from Belgium, les chicons au gratin. Chicons are these white vegetables that you may be familiar with or not. They are also called witloof, endives, Belgian endives, and chicory also. I found them under chicory. So if you go to the store, I bought them at Mariano's, they find them at the checkout under, this time it was under Belgian lettuce. It varies all the time, but this is what you want. And they need to be white because they grow away from the light. So this is a completely white vegetable. We'll explain to you how to grow chicons later on in the show. And this is a good chicon. This is a bad chicon because it has green. This is not good. You don't want this. So we are going to make a recipe. For the recipe that you'll see is for 4 servings. And it calls for 4 chicons. So I'm going to make 8 rolls. But these are so big that I'm going to cut them in quarters, in 4 instead of 2. So you'll need 2 big chicons or 4 medium-sized chicons. 8 slices of ham. I buy the off-the-bone ham. I find it the best and the closest to what we find in Belgium. You need grated Gruyere cheese, or it can be Emmental or Swiss. And what we use, you need breadcrumbs for the crust, that we call the gratin. salt and pepper, olive oil or butter if you prefer. And optional, you can add some garlic cloves and some sprigs of rosemary, just to give it a little bit of taste. Chicons tend to be a little bitter, and usually kids don't like them. So it's kind of an acquired taste, but it's still good. So I'm going to, I put a little of oil in my frying pan. It's warming up right now. I'm going to cut the chicken in half, in four. So you can see, so you have 4 nice quarters, and we are going to braise them with the cut size down. So here you'll have 2 cut size, you'll have to turn them over. So I'm just going to put them in the pan. I'm just doing 4 for the show. The recipe calls for, you'll have 8. So you let them fry. You may add a little bit of salt and pepper already at this point. We'll add more a little later. And it will take, you want them to be nice and brown and soft. So this is pretty much halfway. It's going to take, I would say, 30 minutes to maybe a little more. And this is what you want. Just nice and brown chicken. Yes. Once they are like this, you just turn them over. So, and continue braising for another probably 10 minutes. And when all sides are nice and brown, you just add a little more salt and pepper. And you add a little bit of water and put a lid on them, turn the heat down and let it cook for until they are nice and soft. What you want. That's the end product, as you can see. So you have nice braised chicken, nice and soft. You have to be able to prick your fork through them. And nice and soft. So we have the chickens, we have the ham. Now I'm going to turn my oven to 400 degrees, I'm sorry. And we are going to roll the slices of ham with the chickens. So you can see here. So I'm going to take 1 slice of ham. For each one of them, I put a chicken in there. Roll the chicken and put them in an oven baking dish. Some recipes call for a whole chicken per slice of ham, but I don't like it. I take a half or a quarter of a chicken for each of them. See, you have this size. I think it's best because otherwise it's just too much chicken. And as I said before, they are kind of a bitter taste, and some people add sugar when cooking them. But my mom used to always say that it was cheating, so I don't do it. Voila, now I have my Wallonie sauce that's really nice and cheesy. See? So I'm going to add I'm going to add my sauce over the chicons like this. Let's do a spatula. So you cover your chicons with Mornay sauce. Here we go. Now we are going to add the, I use probably it's about half a cup of Gruyere cheese. You can put more, you can put less. You finish with the breadcrumbs. Cover nicely with breadcrumbs. And we are going to add, you can use oil, olive oil, or you can use little dots of butter. Also on the crust, this will be for to get a nice brownish crust. So this is what goes in the oven. So as I said, 400 degrees, 20 minutes, and then under the broiler. But when you put it under the broiler, be careful because it goes really fast. You want it nice and brown, you don't want it burnt, and it happens fast. So put it in the oven. And voila. So you have your chicon au gratin. You see the nice crust. So they are best accompanied by mashed potatoes, or because we are in Belgium, with French fries. So bon appétit. Enjoy your chicons. Au revoir.
Tu nous as donné faim à tous. You made us all hungry. This schedule at 5:45 is cruel. We have no access to the stove or the oven. So last year, I told the story of the Belgian waffle in North America. And this year, I was asked and assigned to talk about the story of the Belgian endive. So this is not a story that goes back in the centuries. It really started roughly between 1830 and 1840 and we have Alexandra. Thank you. But on this photo, you can see the blue paper that is actually wrapping the boxes of Belgian endives between the farm and the retailer to maintain a very dark atmosphere, and they retain their whitish color. Next. So yes, like anything in Belgium, we have a logo, the genuine Belgian endive, that is recognized everywhere within Belgium. And it's really, there is an organization that promotes the Belgian endive, how to grow them and how to eat them, actually. It has a Latin name, Cichorium endivia, but really not used in the general public. The word white gold, as I learned that actually while preparing this, is really because of the color of the vegetable and because of the value of that crop earlier in the 20th century. Next. So the map, of course, of our country, the Kingdom of Belgium, and really the geographic part of the growth, the cultivation of this vegetable is extremely limited in the territory that is used for this. It is used in the central northern province of Vlaamse-Brabant, Flemish Brabant, Brabant Flamand, just north of Brussels, to the east to Leuven, Louvain, and a little tip in the south of the Antwerp province, Mechelen, Malines. So that's really the gold or the white triangle of the Belgian endive. And on the right, you can see some of the drawings to show, really how labor intensive, and I will repeat this several times during the presentation, how labor intensive this growth, this crop is. Next. So that's the thing you never see in the store, because Muriel had some, so do I. So this is what we see in the store, but really it is the second growth of the plant called chicory. And you see the beige part is actually the roots. And when we go, you know, that's, what can I say? You will see on the next slide, etc. Really that to arrive to this level, it needs several steps actually. Next. So Muriel mentioned one retailer here in Chicago. There is another one where you find them too, and it's very interesting. It's called Trader Joe's, and they always pack them by tree. They put 2 white Belgian endive and then 1 radicchio, but that grows in the shape of a Belgian endive. And that's why, I mean, it's quite interesting because in Belgium, we don't see that associated together. But if you see that, you can use them, but I would use the radicchio for something else than for chicon gratin. Next. So within the chicory family, you can see that there are several, and you may be familiar with, we talked about the radicchio, that's the more dense lettuce head, you know, the radicchio that we know. You have the curly endive, we usually saute them and with cream and nutmeg, etc. Then you have the escarole, which is also scarole, and the Belgian endive. So they're all from the same family, the same roots, actually, but they have different appearance. Next. Voila. So this is for informational and education purposes only. It's from a Belgian website or from the north of the country. And they really have, when you have the podcast, you can actually check on this website. You know, it's a great vegetable. It has very little calories. It's crunchy, it's delicious, and yet no guilt. Next. So again, I mentioned, you know, after reading this, I already knew it, but after preparing this, I have a lot of respect for the farmers and the growers of Belgian endive, because really, either in Belgium, Northern France, and in the United States, it is a painstakingly culture of to arrive and to reach the final, the finished product, if I can say. And that really tells you why it is not the cheapest vegetable available in your grocery store, but it's worth sampling and eating it. Next. So that's how it starts. You know, in the spring, they put the seeds and the endive grows the whole spring and summer season up to October, November, when in Belgium it gets colder. But that's the appearance of the very leafy plants. And on the next slide, we will see what happened to them actually. Next, please. Voila, that's already after seeding everything, you know, and they remove the plant from the soil in the field. In this one, it's a very small operation because you can see some leeks on the right. Typical Brabant province, small farms, multiple crops, etc. So they remove the plant from the soil, hopefully a day that it is not raining, because it should be still, you know, cool and dry. Next. And then when the leaves are, you see in the back of this, they go into these temporary greenhouse or shelter. There are different kinds. Some can be underground as well, under the farm building. And you see this person is really, and this is from the 1980s. It's not like that long ago, so long ago. And they cut the leaves, and then all the roots are replanted in very soft soil. Next, please. So the graphic on the left shows actually, you know, the soil, and then you put the roots, then you put some very soft soil on top, some dry straw, and finally, or hay, straw. And then on the top, because it gets colder, the plants to germinate again and to sprout again needs some warmth. It doesn't come from the weather outside. They can have some artificial heat in the greenhouse, but also they put blankets or some new material fabric to keep the soil warm and to stimulate the regrowth of the plant. Next, please. So you can see two different ways. On the left, very traditional, and you see they once in a while, you know, they go with a fork to remove the soil and to to make sure that they grow well, you know, etc. But they always keep ready to avoid frost at all costs. Now, this is from Northern California on the right side. This gentleman has developed a culture on trays and higher, so it's a bit less tiring to actually, for the farmers actually, to grow. Next, please. So the Belgian endive, I mean, really within Belgium, it's not a joke, it's a serious business. We love them. And, you know, the association that promoted it was quite busy for many, many years. And you know, looking in belgiansmaak.com is a website that is relatively recent to really explain to us first and to everyone who is interested the story of the Belgian endive. And you can see, I mean, really, there was a witloof phone, so a hotline from for the Belgian endive question. You can see, I mean, really, it's from the 1970s, early 70s. You can see also the family operation when they get them, you know, and cut them by hand, etc., before putting them in the boxes in the blue paper to keep them. And of course, like many things in Belgium, there was the election of Miss Witloof up to the late 70s, early 80s. I don't think it is happening anymore, and there is a reason for that. It's the dwindling number of farms that are involved in growing Belgian endive. Next, please. So voila, that's the situation on the soil, really on the ground. You can see, you know, between 1975, really the peak of the Belgian growth and export of from 24% of all vegetable grown in Belgium to, and the last figures we have are 2016, 2%. So, and the amount of farms also, of course, the tonnage of Belgian endive as well, and then the land dedicated. Then there is several reasons. I mentioned, again, if you recall, the location of this crop. It's really densely built for residential areas and for roads and some factories and warehouses, etc. So the land dedicated to the Belgian endive has shrunk. But also, because it is so labor intensive, many of the children of farmers are not so interested to take over the parents' farm. And so you have some farms just close and are transformed into another crop. They decide to grow something else, except from the then Belgian endives. Next. So this was actually, La Voix du Nord is a newspaper from Les Hauts-de-France in the north of France. And of course, the north of France has a tradition of Belgian endive. And today they grow much more Belgian endive than we do or the Netherlands do, actually. It's quite interesting to see, you know, that the gentleman that you see is 82 years old, I believe. And he created an association of the French grower of Belgian endive, and he owned a restaurant. So he really tried to promote it as an everyday dish outside of Belgium as well. But during that time, the Belgian endive was recognized by the UNESCO as a Brussels/Belgium inventory intangible cultural heritage. And that was actually quite a nice recognition for this not so old, but very traditional Belgian growth. Next, please. And voila, see, it's so popular. I mean, really, I travel, as you know, quite a lot in my business and life, and I found endives almost everywhere. And, you know, so they have a name in many, I know that we have a Korean watcher right now, so Belgier and Daibu. You know, that's interesting that they adapt all the Belgian endive sound into the local language, you know, because it's Francophonie in IT, endive Belge Creole, and they didn't know that either. So, voila, that's it for me. À l'année prochaine.
Assez vite, Paul. Reste ici pour stay here. Not so fast, Paul. Don't go away. I'm sure people have questions. Please, you can write your question in the chat. You can have questions for Muriel about the recipe, for Paul and Stephano about anything Belgian. It can go beyond the Chicon tonight. We are open to all your questions, if you have any. Actually, I had one for Muriel that was posted in the chat earlier, which is for the sauce mornay. Could you add a little bit of nutmeg in it, or does it go with it?
Oh yes, absolutely. I didn't mention that. Yes, nutmeg is excellent for mornay and béchamel sauce. Yes, I would definitely do that.
And for people who don't know what a mornay sauce is, I think you explained it, but maybe you can.
Yes, it is actually a béchamel sauce, which is based on milk or cream, and you just add cheese to it, and it makes it a mornay sauce. That's very easy. Usually Gruyere cheese or Emmental is good, but yeah, that's, you transform a béchamel sauce into a mornay sauce by adding cheese.
Merci. We have more questions.
I have a question. Thank you, Muriel. It looks delicious. Can you repeat which ham do you use? I didn't really get
of the bone. It's jambon à l'os, Martin.
Oh, and where do you
find the bone? It? Yes.
Where did you find it?
At the deli. You just ask for. They usually you can find that. Yeah, Mariano's everywhere. Yes, I think it's the best, as close as you know what we would use in Belgium. Yeah, don't use the wine. I don't like the wines that are pre-packed or anything.
No. But I always use the Kretschmer ham, but I think yours looks.
Yeah, of the bone ham. Yes, jambon à l'os.
Okay. If I may say also, the slice of ham should be wide enough, because the pre-pack, like Muriel say, you cannot even roll it completely around the chicon. Then you have to put Q-tips, I mean, and all these things, the toothpicks, and it's very complicated. So better have the slice at the deli counter.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I have a question for Paul, I think. It's about, do you know how much time it takes for the chicon to grow?
Yeah, so it's early spring. So in Belgium, it's early March. They start putting the seeds in the soil, you know. The soil has been really well, je ne sais plus comment on dit, enfin, labouré. And basically, they put the seeds, and then it grows like a lettuce, really. It's the same family, you know, I mean, the same type of plants. They grow all summer long, so March to October. So 7 months, really 6 months, 7 months. And then you remove them, you know, then that part that's 2 or 3 days, hopefully no rain. And after that, you put them back into the soil. And then that's a good question, really. How long does it take to germinate a second time? Well, I haven't done it, and I'm a gardener, but I haven't done that. I don't know really how long it takes for the plant to grow the second time, but because of the condition of warm soil and the greenhouse, etc., 6 weeks.
Yes, Paul, I think it takes about a month and a half. And I have to say, I actually grew them here 1 year.
Oh.
I had small, tiny little chicons, not the big ones that I showed you for the recipe, but I actually smuggled some seeds from Belgium, which is totally illegal, of course, you know. You can't.
No, they were treated, seeds. I'm certain they were treated for export. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No seed.
So yeah, I seeded them in early March, in May, and I had the roots as you showed, and I cut the leaves, maybe I would say 1 centimeter off the top of the root, and I planted them. I had a big container. I put them in the container and covered them with dirt for about maybe 2 inches on top of the roots, and then I covered them with leaves, and I just let it. I put the container in the garage and thought, I had my chances of having chicons were slim. And I think a month and a half later, I just went to the garage and I saw these little sprouts just going, and I removed the dirt, the leaves, and I had some chicons. It was amazing.
We have, thank you, Muriel. We have more questions about recipes. One question is from Sarah: is baking usually the best way to cook endives? Or is there other things than baking?
Baking.
Well, au four,
Well,
j'imagine.
you can, yes, you can use the endives as in a salad. You just slice them and you can add them to lettuce or kale or anything. They are really good raw as well. It just adds a little bit of bitterness. It's crisp. It's really good. Yes.
And I think there is also les chicons braisés, n'est-ce pas? C'est simplement à la poêle, sans les mettre au four après, non?
Oui, no, yeah,
In
because
English,
les chicons braisés, it's just the first part of the recipe. You can just braise them and you can eat them as just like that. We eat them. And my mom also had a recipe where she would make cook meatballs on top of the chicon in a it was in a pot, and you pretty much, it's more like steaming them. You braise them and then you let them steam with your meatballs on top, and so just I always like that as well. So lots of different ways to cook them.
So
if I may add also, the cream of endive is a great soup actually to serve.
Oh, yeah.
And you put some butter and nutmeg to enhance the flavor. And I use white pepper instead of black pepper to maintain the pale color of the finish for the eyes. Another way also, and I discovered that in Spain they love the endivias belgas, and they use the leaves, they're very firm leaves, and they use it as, instead of a canapé, they would put some spread of blue cheese or something, and they just serve it and eat it directly from the leaf. So it's, as you know, the leaves are it's quite very sturdy and crunchy. That's a very important, Muriel. The endive should be crunchy. If you touch it and it's a bit soggy, oh, no.
No, and certainly not green. No green. My grandfather would just go, just have a heart attack if he saw just green on the endives. You just can't have that.
And you know, because it takes so much time and work and efforts to maintain them white, and sometimes the retailer put them on the shelves under the spotlight, which kills the purpose of this whole chain of people who worked hard to keep them white. But we are here, the Belgians in Chicago, we are here to support and educate our friends at the grocery store. N'est-ce pas?
I want to share, Wendy shared with us how she serves endive leaves. She fills them with chicken or tuna salad and garnished with chopped green onion and tomatoes. So delicious. Thank you, Wendy. Someone else, something not about cooking, but the linguistic of chicon. Why is it called chicon in Belgium and endives in other parts, other countries, and in France? Why do we call them chicon in Belgium? Anybody knows?
Stephano? It's a very good question indeed, but I do not know the answer. No,
Somebody's going to have to Google it for us.
Yeah. Well, as Paul showed in his presentation, the word chicon refers to the etymological word of the vegetable. So in Latin, it was called, how was it again, Paul? Is
it because of the family of chicorée?
Chicorée, yes.
Yeah.
Chicoria endivia.
Yeah, Chicoria endivia. So I guess in Belgium we decided to remain close to the original radical of the word, probably. Yeah.
Someone was asking if it's possible to cultivate endives at home. I think Muriel was explaining how she did and had small ones.
Yeah, they were very, very small though. I don't think I had enough to make a to make a certain chicon au gratin, but I guess
it's the
you
pleasure
could,
of
yeah.
growing.
Why not?
I have another culinary question. How thick should the sauce be before adding the Gruyere? From Rick. Thank you, Rick. Oh, he's cooking live with us. Oh,
let me see.
Well,
all right.
we'll
So
be there
how is this
at the end of
bechamel
the
right
show.
now?
Oh, let me see.
Rick,
oh, that's a little too liquid, I think. I think I saw. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't be able to pour it. It should have some consistency. I don't know how to explain, just like when you do, like
honey that off a spoon, kind of.
Or like a thick fondue valaisanne.
Yes, a thick fondue valaisanne. Yes, that does it, Paul. But not runny. It shouldn't be runny.
Add more cheese.
There was some question about where else are endives or chicons grown in the world. So we talked about Belgium, north of France,
the Netherlands,
California, Michigan, Netherlands.
The state of Michigan, yes. Yes,
I
believe the state of New Jersey, since it is the garden state, they grow almost anything in New Jersey. So if somebody is on the East Coast, please tell us that you can find New Jersey grown Belgian endive.
I have one question.
Go ahead.
When I think of Belgium, only two vegetables come to my mind. One would be the Belgian endive, and the other would be Brussels sprouts. But I understand that that's a false association. Does anybody understand why that exists?
The Brussels sprout, if I may, it's actually grown in the same area as well, around Brussels. That's the general name, but we call them choux de Bruxelles, col de Bruxelles. It's really the same name. It's also a winter crop, and they grow, on stems. And there is a little cabbage on top, but like Trader Joe, again, to mention them, but they sell them in October, November by the stem. And it makes great center tables when you have a Belgian dinner. But also they grow in the winter. And so, at least late fall, early winter. But it is typically a crop but here they grow. I mean, obviously in the United States, you find them in many parts of the world, and they're not exported from Belgium in that shape, I believe.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Raphael, I just, if I may, want to introduce Chris. So Christopher is our colleague in the AWEX Chicago. Yeah, thank you.
Merci d'être là ce soir. Thank you for being there tonight.
Merci, belgiophile.
Actually, does everybody knows how to raise their hand, or maybe just visually, if we see you, to let us know if you are from Belgium or you have Belgian family, or so let's see who is from Belgium. You can raise the hand in a reaction box as well if you don't want to be on camera. It's just curious to see. And then who is pure American, not having set a foot in Belgium ever?
No, we have a native of North Carolina, Illinois residents who spend a whole year in Mons to study and enjoy Belgium so much that she can't stop supporting and recreating these experiences. Chantal.
Bravo. I'm checking quickly the chat if we have any other question, or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself one at a time if you have a question. But I think we've, Stephano, do you want to add anything about the economics of Chicon? The trade of Chicon?
Well, there is not much to say about the trade because, as Paul mentioned in his presentation, actually, the business is very much down for many years already. And so we do not export much of chicons worldwide from Belgium anymore.
And
so
do you know if we import them because we don't have enough in Belgium?
Paul, do you know? I don't think we
Yes.
import. Yes,
we bring from northern France and from the Netherlands to complete the shortage, which would be a national
That's
disaster.
nearly home. That's just neighbors.
Yes. We couldn't imagine having retail store, grocery store without chicon. That would be like
no.
a catastrophe.
And I think, are they still very much cheaper in Belgium than they are here? I mean, here, when you say it sometimes can be $2 a piece, that's kind of a little bit of a luxury. Compare in Belgium, I haven't bought one recently, but
it's not a cheap vegetable either. I mean, like
no,
compared
because of
to a
the
turnip
labor
or carrot, or leek, but people know, and they have a lot of respect. They treat them well. I mean, in restaurant, and it's served also it's a home chefs do it, like Cheffe Muriel, and it's also served in restaurants. I mean, it's really something the white gold. I mean, it's not invented. I mean, it was used a long time ago. So, but it isn't a relatively expensive vegetable for something grown locally. Like, for instance, the Belgian grape grown under greenhouses around Brussels in Overijs and Tervuren and etc. Those are just labor intensive, and labor intensive in Belgium means expensive.
I have one last question maybe for Muriel. Actually, I was traumatized when I was a child. In a Belgian primary school, they serve chicon à la sauce béchamel, so with the ham and the béchamel. Gratin, I don't remember exactly if there was gratin or not on the dish. It was in school for lunchtime, and I hated it. And why did I hate it? I acquired the taste for it later, but in school, because it was very, very bitter. So can you tell us, Muriel, a little bit about the bitter part of the chicon and the controversy? Should we remove it, keep it, the whole?
Yes, usually kids don't like chicons. I don't know any kid who would like chicons. It's an acquired taste, but once you have it, I think it's wonderful. And I've read that actually the bottom of the chicon, when you get them, some people cut it off to cook it, because apparently the bitterness comes from the bottom. In my recipe, I kept it because it just keeps the chicon together, and you can just cut it off. You can just braise them and then cut off the bottom afterwards. Personally, I don't think it makes a lot of difference. What a lot of people do, some people do, is add a little bit of sugar while it's cooking. And if my mom would have told me, oh my God, you can't add sugar to the chicons, but I've seen it done, and I've seen it in other recipes. So you might just add just a tiny bit just to get the bitterness of the chicons. But it's true, yes, kids don't like chicons.
Yeah, but no, I love it in salad mostly. I just cut it in pieces, makes a salad wonderful. So someone else is cooking along. So kudos to who is cooking along with us tonight. I think it's Lexi. Oh, Lexi, who actually, I don't know if she's busy or she can unmute herself to talk to us, but she had a fun fact how she was introduced to an endive by a Kurdish roommate in students' dormitory in Warsaw, Poland in 1971. So they must have chicon in Poland. And someone else, oh, Lexi as well, read that Anne Frank and family were eating tons of endives during World War II. So, I mean, if it grows in basement and in the dark, I guess it's a good thing to grow when you are hiding. And some fun facts everybody's sharing in the chat, please read. French family I lived with served this dish quite regularly. The mother was from northern France. Indeed, that's the region.
You know, for instance, it is exported, like in Japan. The finest really European restaurant will have the decoration with endive leaves and everything to show that they procure the best raw ingredients to have it on the menu. I mean, in Japanese, in European restaurant in Japan, you see them as well. And in Spain, I'm shocked to see how popular it is, you know, but they don't do au gratin. They really use them raw mostly as a salad or as an appetizer. But however it is, eat endive.
Yes. So is there any last question? You can unmute and ask your question if you want to. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap this evening. We're all going to go cook chicon for dinner tonight, right? Oh, one more thing I can say before some are ready, they have them there. In the chat, somebody asked a question about last year waffle video, and it is on our website in the page about tonight's event, but also everybody's going to have an email to thank you for coming tonight, probably tomorrow or Monday. And in that email, we'll make sure to also add the link to last year's demonstration, since some people are interested.
So next year, should we fry potato and make Belgian fries?
Okay,
or people
fine.
might make suggestion to us to see what's, don't hesitate to email the Alliance Française to say what you want to see next year.
Brussels sprout fans?
What? Okay, I think I did the whole chat. If we have not answered your question, we'll make sure to read them later and to email you with the thank you. So anything you want to add, Stephano, Muriel, or Paul? No, we're all.
See you next year.
Yeah.
See you next year. Yeah.
Until then.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was gonna say mille merci actually to the Wallonia Export Investment Agency with Stephano Smars and his colleague Chris, and Cheffe Muriel, and as well as Paul van Halteren, Honorary Consul of Belgium in Chicago. Un grand merci. Un grand merci à tous for being here tonight. And also a very special thank for your generosity and donations, because every little bit counts. So thank you for the one who donated when registering. Also, I want to add that le Festival de la Francophonie is possible thanks to the support of our Franco partners in Chicago and the Fédération of Alliance Française USA. And also mark your calendars for our next FrancoFun program, which is on Tuesday, March 8th, in person at the Alliance at 6:30 p.m. when we revisit the first film by the great African director from Senegal, Ousmane Sembene. His movie title is La Noire de ... or in English, Black Girl, followed by a discussion with Charles Coleman from Facets and a wine service. So now we're going to ask you to unmute yourself, everybody, and give a big round of applause for our Belgium team tonight. They say thank you.
Thank you.
And à l'année prochaine. Merci beaucoup.
À l'année prochaine.
Au revoir.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.